Well, here I am in beautiful Sugarloaf at the Big Bear City Community Services Fire Station number 2. And today it's the monthly meeting of the Sugarloaf Property Owners Association, and their special guest speaker is none other than 14-year-old Jordan Romero, the kid that climbed Mount Everest. Let's go in and watch.
This young man is very, very special. Many times I'll stand before you when I'm preparing to introduce the speaker. I try not to say too much because I don't want to take any thunder away from them. But this morning, what comes to mind is that I normally introduce someone who really needs no introduction within the community. However, this morning is a very unique situation in that this young man needs no introduction within the world. He is so well known, and we are so proud to have this young man here this morning. And I also want to introduce his mom to you, Leanne. You know, so often when she was at home while he was doing his quest, and so often it's so very difficult for the one at home waiting to hear what's happening, because you're sitting there, you're twiddling your thumbs, you don't know what's going on, you don't know if everything's perfect, if they've made it to the top, if they've run into some sort of problem on the way up. So thank you so much for your love and your patience and everything that you've done for this young man as well. So we thank you as well. Probably at some point we should bring her in as a speaker as well to let us know what she went through. But I don't want to take any more time away because I know you're going to have some questions for this young man. So it's my honor this morning to introduce to you the young man who conquered Everest, Jordan Romero.
Honored to be here. On May 22nd, 2010, I became the youngest person in the world to climb Mount Everest at only 13 years old. And for me, as I stand here today, I have one more mountain to climb. Climbing Mount Everest was number 6 of the 7 summits of all the 7 continents. So the last mountain I have to climb is Mount Vinson Massif in Antarctica, which stands at 16,000 feet. We will be leaving there in January. When I was 9 years old, I was inspired by a mural that I saw of these 7 summits in my school hallway, and I was only in the 4th grade at this time. It inspired me so much, and I was so fascinated with it, and imagined myself on top of all 7 of those peaks. Then I did all my research, did my homework, wanted to know what I was getting into, and then my dad picked me up from school one day, and I said, "Dad, why don't we climb the 7 summits?" And that was just it from there. 1 year later, you know, after training for about 1 year, we had gone to Africa and had climbed the highest mountain in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro, at 19,340 feet when I was only 10 years old. So basically, you know, in between Everest and Kilimanjaro, I'd climbed mountains such as Mount Kosciuszko, highest mountain in Australia, Mount Elbrus, highest in Europe and Russia at 18,500 feet, Mount McKinley in Alaska, 20,320 feet in North America, Mount Aconcagua, highest mountain in South America, it's 22,834 feet, and I was 11 at the time. So, and then in September of 2009, I'd gone down to Indonesia and Papua and climbed the highest mountain there in Southeast Asia. So within just 3 years, I'd climbed 5 of the mountains. And just several weeks before we were leaving for Everest, I was wondering, how the heck are we gonna get there? And so we put on so many fundraisers, like taco night fundraisers, and when the whole community just came together to help support me, to help me get there, you know, I couldn't ask for anything better. I'm very honored to live here and so glad I've been born and raised up here for my whole life. I'm glad to have a community behind my back, so thank you all very much. How do I have time for school and schoolwork? Well, that's it wasn't quite easy. I'm actually new to the high school over here. I'm a freshman and a 9th grader, and so during Everest, it was just my last few months of 8th grade in middle school. So we were, you know, from the beginning of the 2nd semester, we were on independent study. So we were doing it earlier before we would climb Everest to get used to it, and then we went there and brought schoolwork with us, and I did schoolwork up on the mountain when I was there. And there was plenty of downtime, so it's not very tough.
So when are you leaving again, Jordan?
Sorry?
When are you leaving in December?
In January, we'll be leaving for Antarctica. We will be flying from South Africa and Cape Town with a Russian team, and we'll head down and do a big cross-country ski expedition down there.
In the dead of winter, isn't that a tough one, January?
It will be summer down there, so it'll be warmer temperatures, but that doesn't mean it's going to be like summer down there. Was Mount Everest my toughest? Oh no, Kilimanjaro is usually the first mountain that most people who want to climb all the 7 summits, highest point on every continent, Kilimanjaro is usually the first one they go to. It may be very high, but it's still very simple, and it's all just hiking and trekking. So, you know, at 10 years old, it was a great start for me. You know, probably not for the altitude, but for how technically easy and physical. For me, it was very tough when I was 10 years old, though.
How did you learn how to climb mountains? What was your training?
How did I train? Well, I was, you know, at 9 years old, when I first explained to my dad I wanted to climb the 7 summits, we started training right away. That involved just doing everyday stuff, you know, up here in Big Bear, like going to the gym or going out hiking. I love to ski. We would do any sort of physical activity to get us well prepared. And before Mount Everest and many of the high altitude climbs, we would sleep in a hypoxic tent, or I would, and so sleep in it overnight, and basically it lowers the oxygen available, and so it prepares my lungs, and, you know, has me grow more red blood cells for the high altitude. And plus, training up here at 7,000 feet is a great, you know, step alone.
I'm going to ask that because I think there's part of the question. In terms of mountaineering, we just put him in contact with the best mountaineers we knew and people that knew mountaineering, so knew about the crampons, and he would go up in the mountains at night and practice with the ice axes and the crampons and things like that. And then he's very, Jordan's always on a quest for knowledge, so he would read every book, watch every documentary, do everything, talk to every mountaineer that he could speak to. And his dad and Karen, his dad and his dad's girlfriend that were doing these with him were doing the same. Because Jordan said of old, it wasn't a family sport. This wasn't something that we grew up doing. So, but the thing is when you head in a direction and you want to be successful, what do? You seek out the best and then go to those people for information and advice. So.
I read in Thin Air by Krakauer that it used to cost per person $50,000. Is it, or was it only, I don't know if it was only to join an expedition, or is it still that the government has to pay by that amount?
Well, basically, you know, with all the fundraisers we had, and from, you know, from some of our sponsors, our money had donated to us, the cost was about.
It was about $100,000.
$100,000 for
a team of 7, so that's 7 people, $100,000 over 2 months. So that included the guides, the food, and he had sponsors to cover.
And the best best thing was, you know, we didn't really go on like any big expedition or any big team like Russell Bryce's team or you know, like or Asian trekking. We just went with a small Sherpa business, a family-owned business called Sherpa Adventures, and so we only had 3 Sherpa guides and a cook. So our team consists of only 6 people, which is perhaps the best, you know, when you're climbing a mountain, because, you know, you look at some of the other teams and, you know, you look at probably the Russian camp or the South Africans, and they have a team of about 100 people, and everyone just doesn't, you know, like stay together, and so when you have a small team, it's better like for teamwork, and it's good, and it's easier to make decisions. And we had, you know, very experienced Sherpas with us. To put them all 3 together, they had climbed Everest about 10 times. So our lead Sherpa was going for his 3rd time up on Everest and his 1st time up the northern Tibet's ridge that we had went up on.
Communication. What kind of cell phone communication, so that you all were talking to each other or talking down the mountain to let everybody know everything's fine? Right?
Well, on Everest we had a great thing going on from this company from the satellite company called ESRI, or it's basically a tracking. I don't know what to say. Like we basically had a thing where people could track us on the mountain. And we had these little red push pins, or this little red blinking dot, and you could go online and track us, and we would be going up the mountain. And I didn't really get to experience it much, but my mom could definitely tell you more.
And the thing about the teams, with a team of 6 climbers, they're never people. The thing that benefited Jordan's team that led to a lot of success was that, you know, when you put a 13-year-old with his father and his father's girlfriend, and you have this team that's climbing every mountain together, they're all invested in each other's safety and well-being the entire time. So it's a lot different. People don't realize when they look at all the Everest things and, oh, you pay $50,000 and you go get part of this team of 100 people. No one else, you just pay the money to show up. Whether you're physically capable of doing it, you just have the money to do it. And not only that, you're there alone. How many other people on that team of 100 are invested in your individual safety and you know what I mean? You need the money, they're going to try to make sure you have a safe trip. But the reality is when you have a family unit there taking care of and looking out for one another, they're not going to make decisions that are going to put any of them in jeopardy. And that was the goal when we set out. It's that the goal is to come home. Summiting Everest is not the most important thing. It's being able to come home. And Jordan set out with that mindset from the beginning. I remember him calling me from base camp and going, just staring at the mountain and saying, Mom, if this is it, if I never get any farther up the mountain, this is it. I'm 100% satisfied that I can come home and have a kid. Do you know what I mean? Like right now, I'm standing here. But so the thing is his goal was to get home safe, whether that meant something or not. And so when you hear about these other teams, you know, you think of, oh, they're so small, they're so vulnerable. No, they're actually stronger at 6 climbers and a cook than some of these other teams of 100 that paid $50,000 a person to go. And it's because of that. You care about the people you love, and you work together for the benefit of the team instead of being that one individual out there for themselves. Not so. Good.
When you finally take the time to grow up, you have enough time to grow up. What
Yes.
is the plan?
Yeah, well, yes, definitely. You know, I'm really having definitely having the time to grow up and being a regular kid, like right now.
When you grow up, what's the
Oh,
goal?
when I do grow up, well, we just selected just yesterday the perfect college for me. It's up in Tahoe, and it's Sierra Nevada College. and that's where I do plan to go to after graduating high school. So basically, what I want to be is basically a graphic and a graphic designer and photographer. That's what I want to be.
Now, if you go higher, you can join the space program and become.
I don't know about that.
In preparation for your next trip, when do you actually start, or are you doing it now, when you really actually start preparing physically, and what kind of routine would you be doing?
We've been doing it ever since we got home from Everest. You know, we had plenty of a break, you know, just flying back home, because it was just crazy coming back home. We got back down to base camp. We drove back to Kathmandu, spent like 4 days there doing media stuff, and then we flew to Hong Kong, did more media stuff there like CNN, and then we got back onto U.S. soil back in, and we flew into New York, which was crazy, and then came back to LA, and then drove up to Big Bear. So we had plenty of a break, and then we started training for Vincent, and we just wanted to get going, you know, when we like to get outdoors and start training, because we spent basically like three entire days, if you add it all up, like maybe 3 or 4 days on a plane. And, you know, it's not the greatest thing.
Jordan, you are such a role model and an inspiration to really any teen, anyone your age. And you've been all summer in a program, I think a hiking program, and your goal is to try to get kids off the couch.
Exactly.
Get them out, get them to eat right. You've always said you've only eaten twice at McDonald's. You want to eat better.
Yeah.
That's been a real inspiration to everybody, hasn't it?
You know, that's really what it's all about. You know, not only is climbing Everest or climbing all the mountains my biggest goal, it's to inspire kids, teens, and even adults to get up off the couch and get going, and to set goals for themselves and know that they can do it. I want to inspire them to find their Everest, to find climb and summit that Everest. It could be anything, you know, being a U.S. Open champion tennis player, or being first U.S. president from your home state. It could be anything, as long as you just stay committed and do the right steps. And that's pretty much what the book that I have says all about. You know, it's from the beginning of when I started climbing, and at the end, it's how to set a goal and how to find your Everest.
Jordan, just before you leave, once again, it was a real honor to have you here this morning. I really appreciate it. This is just a little card from us. It's a thank you for being our guest speaker. And another first today, we have never ever given anything to a speaker. However, we do have a small check for you, and compared to $100,000, it's extremely small. But it is for you. We want to thank you so much for being here, for answering all of our questions, and for being tremendous guide for our community.